For Wednesday, September 9th, 2020. Dun, 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 dun. It is the Pro and Con Show. And I'm your host, Michael James Ott. Thank you, as always, for watching the show. So again, just a couple of seconds at the beginning, encouraging everybody to be better citizens. That means you have to be more aware of the pros and cons, the good and bad, the for and against, the issues before us, whatever they are: national debt, abortion, gun control, racism. They're complex issues. Nothing that we can't unravel and get resolved. But it's not as simple as a few words on a bumper sticker somewhere. Okay, it's going to take an effort for us to lay some groundwork to talk about the pros and the cons, the good and the bad, the for and against, and you know how various people got to the place that they are in their lives, where they have the opinions that they do, they have the positions that they do, and we're going to find by exchanging that information that we're going to realize that we were partially informed, partially misinformed, all these kinds of things. We're going to find out that we have a lot more common ground, and we'll be able to come together and do some things that make sense to all of us. As opposed to listening to the propaganda and rhetoric from the political parties who are trying to keep us in their tribes or cults, if you will, by pushing our emotional hot buttons. But anyway, speaking of the political parties, today's show is called Election Update. And so I wanted to talk about there's two different websites. There's one called 538.com, and the other one I've used many times in the past is called realclearpolitics.com. And honestly, I personally prefer realclearpolitics.com. They just have a tendency, it looks to me like they just throw the information there, the who, the what, the where, and the when, and a lot less articles, opinion, that kind of thing. So if you go to realclearpolitics.com, or if you go to 538.com, you'll be able to look up and find information on recent polls. So here's the information, what it looks like. Of course, a little bit of advertising. This is the internet after all. So there has to be banners and stuff advertising various things. But so the general thing is that it doesn't seem like things have changed too much as far as the support for Mr. Biden or the support for Mr. Trump over the last 4 to 6 weeks. So even though both parties had their national conventions, and yes, there were some minor changes in some of the polling, basically before the conventions, Mr. Biden actually had a fairly sizable lead on a national level, and larger leads in some of the battleground states. But then as the convention process went through, or just leading up to them, those leads shrank some, but then they steadied out. And for example, on the general election, just generically across the country, Mr. Biden is now 7 percentage points ahead, according to 2 or 3 different polls. And then in the battleground states, he's, it depends. And again, the polls vary, right? So again, Real Clear Politics has a tendency to, provide like, here's the polls and then here's an average kind of stuff, which is all, I think, just great. So, for example, I go to president polls, and so for today, like I said, about +7 for Mr. Biden. Wednesday, September 9th, which was yesterday, now they've got some so-called battleground states, and Wisconsin's +4, and so that's a thing where, and again, there's variation. And then here's another one, a different polling outfit, Wisconsin +6. Looking looking for some other Wisconsin here just in the last, so Wisconsin +8, Wisconsin +6. So my recollection is that Wisconsin was +10 or 11 on average for Mr. Biden 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks ago. And it's tightened up, but then, like I've said, it seems like over the last 3 or 4 weeks, kind of stuck, for an example, in Wisconsin here in this +6, +7, +8 kind of range, no matter who the polling outfit is. And so I wanted to show, they have these maps. So yeah, the Electoral College Map. So I want to show you the map. There's according to significant polling and stuff, they're basically saying that Mr. Trump is kind of a shoe-in to get 115 Electoral College votes. Mr. Biden is kind of a shoe-in to get 212. Okay, and there's about 211 where the certainty is not nearly as high. Okay, and so what does that map look like? Well, I'll turn this over and you can see it. And again, as all my videos, if you want to just pause it momentarily, you can look at the video or look at the image and then restart the video. But then if you take into account the kind of leaning stuff, let's see here. So we changed this to the no toss-ups, the so-called no toss-ups thing, so that it means that they went ahead and using the statistical analysis and the current leaning of the various battleground states and stuff like that, they have Mr. Biden winning the Electoral College 352 to 186, which is a bigger margin than it was just a few weeks ago. I want to say that it was 332 or 330 or something to 200 or something like that, roughly those kinds of numbers. They usually have the map here. Oh, there's the map. I'm sorry, I pushed the wrong thing. So this is, to me, always interesting. So the blue is going for Mr. Biden, the red going for Mr. Trump. Look at that. Look at that. So there's this huge swath of more rural areas, that kind of thing, in the center of the country. And those folks are going for Mr. Trump, and then the coasts and the Midwest, and apparently Florida, at least their projection is that Florida is going to go for Mr. Biden. So that's where the 352, and again, it's not perfect, and but it generally is showing that Mr. Biden would seem to have a significant chance at winning the election. Certainly, if it were held today, it would seem like he would almost certainly win. Now, there's still, whatever it is, 50 days roughly until the election. So let me see what 538 says about this. So just bear with me here for a second. So they have this one chart that basically says the probability of a win. Okay, so the blue line on top is Mr. Biden, and you see how it's been changing over the last weeks. And the red line toward the bottom is Mr. Trump. And what they're saying is that the forecast, the odds are about a 75% chance now at this point that Mr. Biden is going to win the election, both in popular and electoral college votes. But let me go back to Real Clear Politics here, And let's find, oh, I gotta find it. Apologize. Kind of like a little bit of dead air here, but okay, here we go. So, well, they normally have a betting odds thing in here. Let's see. I'm not finding it. Well, here, let's go to, so there's another website called the bettingodds.com. And they have, so remember the Real Clear Politics was estimating a 352 to whatever 180 or something victory in the Electoral College for Mr. Biden. The betting odds, the reason why this, I wanted to mention this is that I've read multiple articles and from various sources that say that actually the betting odds are better at predicting who's going to win an election than these polls. And so bettingodds.com, they use some different sources. And right now they're saying that there's a 53%, a little over 53% chance that Mr. Biden is going to win versus a 44% chance that Mr. Trump is going to win. So the other place was talking about 75-24 or 75 or 74-25 kind of thing. This is a lot closer, okay? 53.5 versus 47 or 43.7%, which is a difference of about 10 percentage points. But the betting odds are, only slightly over half in favor of Mr. Biden winning this election. So why does it matter? Well, and again, I say this over and over again because it's true. On no basis whatsoever, politics or policy whatsoever, I have to urge anyone that watches my videos, that listens to me at all, that thinks that I have any reason or influence on them at all, to not vote for Mr. Trump, to vote for Mr. Biden this year because of Mr. Trump's problems. He has a huge personality / mental issue with his severe narcissism and uncaring attitude toward anyone but himself. And then he has this early onset dementia kind of thing where, yeah, sure, sometimes he's quite lucid and speaks, pretty eloquently and to the point. But there's also plenty of times where he's really struggling to string the words together and can barely get out, oh, mad, bad, sad, kinds of things. And I don't mean that, I don't say that in any way where I'm happy that that's happening to him. I mean, these kinds of things, if you've ever had anyone in your family or family member, friend with a parent that starts progressing towards the early onset dementia or into dementia, yeah, it's a tough thing for everyone involved. And I do not wish it upon Mr. Trump as well, but it would seem that it almost certainly is occurring, and in the best interests of the nation, he should not be president of the United States again. So anyway, that's the update on the election. At this point, a little bit plus 50 days out, plus or minus. Still looking like Mr. Biden has a pretty good chance of winning the presidential election and unseating Mr. Trump. And we'll see what Mr. Trump, as I've said in past videos, we'll see what Mr. Trump does when he loses the election, if we see that. And of course, as the days get closer and closer, we'll have more updates. All right, so for the Pro and Con Show, my name is Michael James Ott, and until the next show, bye for now.